In this video, I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about 2024 and sort of the biggest running shoe stories that I think have occurred this year. Hello everybody and welcome to FORDY Runs. My name is Chris Ford and I'm a running coach and an athletics coach, and I like to make videos here on YouTube about running shoes and running in general. Hopefully you're subscribed to the channel, but if you're not, please do consider doing so. Now, when I was sitting on a beach in Mallorca, I was thinking to myself, you know what? Some of these running shoes this year, there's some sort of major stories that have developed. If you actually stop and think about it, there's been some comebacks, there's been some like mental shoes that have come along, there's been some shoes that have been extremely disappointing, there's been some shoes that are extremely expensive. There's so many stories that are around this year, and I know it's still not the end of the year, but I was thinking to myself, you know what, this is probably worth doing a video on. So before we carry on, let me know in the comments, what's your sort of biggest running shoe story or sort of running shoe related thing that's happened this year? Like, I don't know, whether it's the Alphafly 3 and the arch issue being there for some and being there for not, or it was the return of the Pegasus Turbo 3. Now, there's so many different stories that are out there, so let me know in the comments what's yours, because I'm going to go through some of the biggest stories that I think have happened this year. Okay, so firstly, I want to talk about the Superblast 2. The most highly anticipated shoe, I think, of the year, mainly because of this YouTube channel here. But it's interesting, isn't it, how much hype there was around that shoe. I think it's brilliant how much hype we created about that shoe. And it finally came out. And the biggest thing about it, other than the fact you couldn't buy it, was it wasn't a disappointment. I was really genuinely worried that that shoe would be terrible. But you know what? They absolutely nailed it this year. I say the only thing that's let that shoe down is the availability. But new colorways will come and hopefully, you know, more stock will arrive. But I do think that is one of the biggest takeaways of the year for me, was that the Superblast 2 regained its crown as the king of the running shoe world. Now, the second story that sort of came to mind was actually the return of the Pegasus Turbo. Now, the Pegasus Plus, we've done videos on the shoe, but I think the return of the Pegasus Turbo, as I'm going to call it, is a marked sort of point in history, because I think this could be the turning point for Nike. Their daily trains over the last few years have been terrible, but the Pegasus Turbo, or the Pegasus Plus, actually is a really good running shoe. Yes, it's expensive, £165, but the fact that they brought it back and finally it's working, it's not like that nature thing that they had, but the fact that it's actually working and it's doing, you know, doing what you'd want from a turbo. It's up tempo, feels great, puts a smile on your face. I think that actually that is one of the biggest stories of the year. Now, moving on from Nike to Adidas. I think actually Adidas, another story this year, has been their sort of, their return to the daily trainer market. You've had the Supernova shoes, you've had the Ultra Boost 5 and 5X. But those Supernova shoes, and combined with that, I think, you know, they're just brilliant. Adidas have done a very good job making sort of these new daily trainers that, you know, that do suit some people out there. The stuff before were heavy and boring with boosts and all this sort of stuff. But the new shoes, the Dream Strike Plus, and even, to be fair, the credit with the light boost that they put in 5 and 5X, it's great. You know, they've done some great things this year, Adidas, in terms of their daily trainers. Obviously, the race day shoes are still like premium, but to see them come back with some of these shoes and give us an option as daily trainers, I think you have to take your hat off. So that's another big story, another big takeaway from 2024 for me. Okay, the next story I think that's interesting to discuss is the ASICS Metaspeed shoes. Arguably the best super shoes that are out there. The Paris range that came out with the Paris Olympics, you had the Edge and you had the Sky. We've done videos on both of these. Extremely lightweight, extremely fast feeling shoes that are just incredible. Now, I know they've not won much in terms of the elites. Adidas are still, you know, winning most of the top prizes out there with the Evo 1 and that sort of stuff. But I think as super shoes go, the ASICS Metaspeed shoes this year have been a cut above most of the stuff that's out there. Now, yes, you've got Pro 4, you've got Elite 2 and some of the other things, but I don't know, there's just something about those shoes. They're extremely lightweight, they're extremely fast, and bringing them both out and bringing two very good shoes out, you've got to give Adidas some kudos, and I think, again, it's a big story of the year. Another interesting story for me this year was the sort of, I don't know, I'm going to try and put this delicately, is where Saucony have lost their way. Saucony this year, they've tried to chase that sort of TikTok London Run Club vibe that's going on. Again, there's nothing against that, there's nothing wrong with that. They're trying to position themselves towards that sort of new up and coming runner, which again, I've got absolutely no problem with, right? But it's a marked shift for Saucony. You see them doing, you know, the pop-up run cafes and, you know, all this sort of stuff, and running around London and all that sort of stuff. Again, no problem with that, but it's a marked change for Saucony. And I think that's one of the things I've noticed. They've kind of lost, I don't know if they've lost their way, that's probably a bit unfair, but they're chasing a different market this year, which for me is quite a big story. It's quite a big change for them. They're going after that on-running crowd, the Hoka crowd that was there before. And it's an interesting change, whether it works or not, but because, you know, they make some incredible shoes, the Endorphin lineup and things like that. But they have definitely changed their marketing to suit into this new wave of runner that's coming out. And I sort of noticed it quite a lot, quite heavily actually. So it'll be interesting to see in 2025 whether they continue along that and whether their shoe launches are more aimed at that, you know, than what we've had in the past. But it was something that I picked up on this year. Okay, two more sort of stories that I picked up on. I think the Alphafly 3 was an interesting one. At London Marathon this year, everybody had them on. They had that like bright yellow Volt colour on. And I think for me, it was remarkable how many people went out and bought that shoe at London Marathon. But I'm not sure it's actually how many people that's worked for. I think the arch is still an issue. And I don't see, you know, that much positive stuff still about the shoe. I think it is a big marketing thing. I think there's I don't want it, this sounds awful. I think there's better shoes out there. Be careful with me in the comments, but I don't know. I don't think it wowed as many people as it has done in the past. I think it's definitely better than it previously. The version 2, the arch is not as predominant. And myself, when I ran at a harder pace, faster pace, I found the shoe came alive. But I don't know. It was just for me this year. It was like a London Marathon. How many of these bloody shoes there were? People wearing them, and I think people wearing them, even though they had no clue what they were, they were just like, oh yeah, I saw it on TikTok, so I went and bought it. I saw the colorway. I saw everybody wearing them at the gym, and they went out and bought them. But I think the Alphafly 3, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I just think it was a bit of a miss this year. And I might be far away from the market, but I just feel like it was a bit of a miss. And the last thing I want to give a shout out to is Puma. Because Puma this year, apart from being narrow, they've come out with two shoes which I think are pretty awesome. Firstly is the Elite 3. I think it's a great 10K shoe. I really like that Elite from Puma. I've championed it before when it was on cheap. But the other shoe from Puma are these. I don't know why, but I absolutely love this Mag Max. Mainly because it's got, on the back of it, it's got, you see that? Come on camera, behave yourself. It's got Bouncy AF written there on the back of it, right? Which I just think is brilliant. But I just absolutely love this shoe. And I think Puma this year, in terms of a story, they really, again, pushed the envelope. You know, you see them doing a lot of run clubs. You see them tied up with a lot of like, you know, big running channels and things like that. They're really trying. And I think they're one of the big stories of this year's Puma. How much, again, they've invested in running as a brand. So there we go. They're my sort of top stories so far of 2024. There still might be one to come, but let me know in the comments, what's your sort of big takeaways from the year? It's really interesting to sort of talk about these things. A bit of a geek thing, this video, but yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I was sort of thinking about it on holiday, and I wanted to put those thoughts down on this video. Okay team, look forward to seeing your comments. Don't forget to join me on the live stream at 8 o'clock UK time on a Monday, and I shall catch you all later.